I just wanted to share a few words about the Spin King. It's hard to comprehend that Shane is gone. The news doesn't seem real. Our hearts are broken. Whether you knew Shane or just admired him from afar, his loss hits hard. I got to know Shane over the past decade, and he was the most wonderful, generous and warm soul. And he didn't have to be. I'd written and said some harsh things about his off-field antics over the years. He could have held a grudge, but he knew there was no malice and plenty of common ground. Shane was a special human being, not just because he was the finest spin baller to ever play the game or one of the finest cricket minds ever, certainly the best test captain Australia never had. Warnie had a light that drew people to him. He had a life force that was fierce and irresistible. He was charismatic, generous, a larrikin and the life of the party. He was a loyal friend and a devoted father. Tonight, his children, along with his parents, brother and former wife, released heartbreaking statements. Shane's parents, Keith and Bridget Warne, said, "The night of the 4th of March 2022 is when a never-ending nightmare began for our family, for that is the date we lost our much-loved and admired son, father, brother and uncle. Shane Keith Warne, a tragedy we'll never come to terms with." To find words to adequately express our sadness is an impossible task for us, and looking to a future without Shane is inconceivable. Hopefully the mountain of happy memories we have will help us cope with our ongoing grief. His son Jackson wrote, "To my brother, my best friend, to my dad, I love you so much. I don't think anything is ever going to fill the void you have left in my heart." His eldest Brooke said, "Dad, this doesn't feel real and doesn't make sense that you're not here with us anymore. It doesn't feel right. You were taken away too soon and life is so cruel." And his youngest Summer wrote, "Dad, I miss you so much already. I wish I could have hugged you tighter in what I didn't know were my final moments with you. And your final breaths were only moments away. I wish I could have told you that everything was going to be okay and hold your hand." Above, that's just part of the statements the family have released tonight. Above all his achievements, all the records and accolades, above it all, Shane was a devoted father. He was so proud of his 3 children and the special relationship he had with them. Warnie was also courageous, and not just on the field. He hated political correctness and had the guts to call out BS, even if it meant copping flack from the media. He was one of the few brave enough to call out the utter nonsense that painted footy fans as racist because they booed Adam Goodes. He knew his footy and he knew his footy crowds and knew that booing wasn't motivated by racism. It shouldn't have been a controversial opinion. Indeed, it was very much a majority mainstream opinion, but not amongst the media who were in the unison pushing a racist narrative, and so Shane copped it. But that didn't stop him from speaking his mind. Warnie wasn't going to self-censor. He was always himself, and that's why people loved him so much, even when he, in his younger days, stuffed up. But the media were not always so kind. Some went after him unfairly, some might say maliciously, even when he was raising money for sick children. The Shane Warne Foundation copped terrible treatment from segments of the leftist media, and it was a blow that Warne felt keenly.
To be accused that you were taking money from the foundation or throwing parties for your friends when we raised over $4 million, and to see the time and the effort that the board put in, that I put in, my own money I put in to make a difference to children was very, very hurtful.
The foundation should be part of Warne's great legacy. It donated more than $4 million to sick children, a fair chunk of that straight out of Shane's pocket. And having spoken to some of the parents of the children who benefited from that generosity, I can tell you they are eternally grateful to Shane and what he did for their families. But back to the larrikin, and Warnie was among the greatest sledgers. He wasn't cheap and nasty about it. He considered sledging a fine art.
I think sledging is a real fine art. It's something humorous, it's quick, it's a moment. It's not something you sort of premeditate, unless it was Daryl Cullinan. Because, you know, when I wake up on Boxing Day and picking up the paper and reading, I've been to a psychiatrist, I've been playing the man and not the ball. Now, there's a big difference between mental health and just struggling to pick a leg break. So Daryl, after he said he'd been seeing people to actually play the ball and not the man. It was Boxing Day Test match, double page spread, and he walked out to bat, and I just sort of lingered around him with intent around the popping crease when he was taking his centre and said, hourly sessions, Daryl, what colour was the couch? And what he turned around, his head snapped to me, and it ended in off, and I went back to my mark, knocked him over a couple of balls later.